Okay, first on the list, Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Okay. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pat, we're missing our secretary tonight. It's her birthday, and she's off doing something. I don't know what. We'll find out about it next meeting, I guess. Pat, could you call roll, please? I have them over here. I'll go ahead and take them. Yeah, you go ahead and call roll, please. Thank you. Here.
Joshua Tree, Martin.
Here.
Flamingo Heights, Livonia.
Yes.
Desert Heights, me, Pat Flanagan. Wonder Valley, Teresa Sitz.
Here.
Morongo Valley, Dan Swire.
Here.
And Copper Mountain Mesa, Mary Helen Tuttle. Birthday week.
Yes. All right, adoption of agenda. Everybody's read the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I move we accept the agenda as
Okay. Second, any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So be, okay, approval of minutes of March 14th, 2016, and they are in the back of the agenda if, for you out there.
I move we approve the minutes of March 14th, 2016.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right, call for public comment. Let's see what we've got here. Ed Valorand.
And I'm the one with the power tonight.
My name's Ed Valorand. I live in Desert Heights. I'm kind of disappointed with the management of County Fire for some of the developments. At a city meeting, we were told that all the LAFCO meetings and discussion on the annexation of the 29 Palms Water Department would be held locally. Then the first meeting on the annexation was held down in the City Hall in San Bernardino, which meant people had to drive down there. Then the next meeting is going to be held in the county and building, but from what I've been told, unless there's a change, it will not be connected to the Joshua Tree Center, so we'll have to go down there. Also, so that shows that there is no local decision or discussion. Also, the notices for the LAFCO was sent out the day after the water board meeting, and the final meeting will be 2 days before the next water board meeting. The water board manages the fire department in 29 Palms, for those who don't know. So therefore, there is no chance for the public in meetings to air their disapproval or their issues and a call to protest. And so I'm really disappointed with what we're told and the management, by the management who was Chief Chamberlain. Also, I am disappointed. I own property in Wonder Valley with what happened out there. They have a two-man crew out there, and you had a structure fire, and there was nobody in the fire station. Neither person was qualified to drive a fire truck other than a small brush truck, a C license. So they went to a structure fire with 100 gallons of water to put out a structure fire and had to call for the tanker to come from Yucca Mesa to Wonder Valley. I don't even know if they saved the slab. Then there was a second fire, and the fire trucks drove by the fire to go to 29 Palms to get water to put it out. And in Wonder Valley, there's two fire stations. The East Fire Station has a 2,800-gallon tanker truck that sat inside of it. However, nobody, including the battalion chief that went to the Wonder Valley meeting, had the combination to get into that fire station. So you have 28 gallons in a truck sitting there. that could have been used if you had a driver and if that had been at the manned station. Also, the power was turned off to that building. Also, the 10,000 gallon tank on that property was empty. You know, and then you come to the main station. There are two 5,000 gallon tanks, and one only had 3,000 gallons in it, and the other was empty. I don't consider that good planning, and to me, that's a management issue, and so I want it to be known. Thank you very much for my tirade.
Thank you for your comment. David Fick?
David Fick, Joshua Tree, tirade number 2. It's about the Altamira project. Some people followed this.
Turn on your mic.
It is on.
Get, put it close to your mouth.
Okay. Can I hang on to it?
Yeah.
Will I get my 3 minutes up? Okay. I'm going to be discussing briefly about the Altamira project.
You turned it off, Dave.
I did. Can you hear me now? No. Testing. Okay, now you guys can hear me. Start over. Give me 3 minutes. Okay, my comment is about the Altamira decision, which was a 4-1 decision by the Planning Commission in downtown San Bernardino. As most people in this room know about this, but I observed what was going down with the planning commissioners, and I did do a bunch of research. The John Wilde, who was the vice chair but chair for these 2 meetings, is a real estate developer, and he, amongst his comments was that he dismissed the local comments because they didn't have to be honest. What he meant by that was that this traffic studies and other professional studies have licenses and are in jeopardy if they are dishonest. So he took everything as gospel from them and discounted pretty much all the comments from us. He also made the comment of looking for a trigger to have an EIR. The fact that everything and most everybody was against this project didn't trigger it as an EIR according to them. I would say that Planning Commissioner Nan Ryder, she's the one driving the county steamroller. She's the most yes person there is on this board. PC Allard had to ask council if the Planning Commission had the authority to require an EIR. Think about that one, people. PC Matthews, she's 5th District. She has a PhD in public administration, but she is a city gal. She is very urban oriented and does pretty much what the Planning Commission or planning staff tells her. PC Paul Smith, he's pretty much as good as we can get as a planning commissioner. He was the most well-informed, had the most discussion in this battle, and he was contrary to the other 4. It was 4-1. He stood up for us, the rest didn't. On to NextEra. That's happening on the 21st April. This is not a pep talk, by the way. I'm just being honest with you guys. On the NextEra, the one confounding situation going on is the Cascade Solar project, that 20 megawatt project, the owner, Sun Edison, is about to go bankrupt. They're the largest solar industry investment firm in the world. They are about to go bankrupt. Their stock is less than 50 cents. So comes the question, who's going to be buying Cascade Solar? And then my last comment is Bernie's going to win New York.
Maybe. Thank you, David. Steve Bardwell.
My name is Steve Bardwell. I live in Pioneer Town in the Pipes Canyon area. I am an architect, and as I was considering it today, I've been practicing architecture now for over 40 years. And I began my practice in the county of San Bernardino in Big Bear Lake. So I haven't had an extensive amount of time dealing with the County Department of Building and Safety over those years. I was very concerned and disturbed this last week to discover that the Department of Building and Safety, the chief building official, is now using an interpretation regarding the additions to any small cabins throughout the county. If one has a cabin that is less than the minimum size of a residence of 725 square feet, this is an interpretation that has been presented to me, that any addition to that cabin whatsoever would have to be sufficient to bring it up to 725 square feet. And the entire cabin would have to be brought up to current codes. So this is a very significant, particularly in this area where there are so many small homestead cabins that are permitted. So this applies even if one has an existing permitted structure. Now, this is fine to have this kind of interpretation. I can see why they're doing it that way. However, this should be made public. This should be a published notice. In my speaking with the individuals at Building and Safety, I said, okay, if this is the case, give me something in writing so that I can say to my client or a realtor or other professionals, take a look at this and be aware of this before going down the path, only to find out that some assumptions that might have been held true in the past, you used to be able to make additions to cabins that were under this, would keep it under that 725 square foot threshold. It's now, this is a real game changer in terms of this, and it's something that I really believe should be published by the county. It's really unconscionable in my sense that this isn't commonly available knowledge that should be published either on the website, a flyer, just somewhere so that people can be aware of it. So I wanted to come here today just to express that so we could get that out there. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Janet Johnston.
Okay, my name's Janet Johnston. I'm an architect too. Brother! Not many of us up here. Anyway, just want to talk about what happened on Thursday. Paul Smith did a great job at the Planning Commission meeting for the Altamira. Paul clearly felt and communicated that he interprets from the development code itself that the community plan's specifics for an area supersede or augment the more generic one-size-fits-all generic plan provisions. I finally have a way to express what is supposed to happen in the approval process of a plan. Community plans are supposed to be treated like an overlay when reviewing projects. The community plans are chapters of the development code. It is right here, I can show you. The community plans follow the chapters in the development code about the overlay. You can look right at the table of contents, and it has all the overlays, then it starts in with the community plans. So for example, if I build a place that is not in a fire overlay area, then they do not make me build to the overlay provisions, which means I don't have to have worry about soffit vents. Or okay, if I build in an area that is in a fire overlay area, I have to follow the provisions of the overlay, which means soffit vents are not allowed. If I buy a property outside of Joshua Tree, I of course do not have to follow the provisions of the Joshua Tree Community Plan. But if I buy a property in Joshua Tree, I have to follow the provisions of the Joshua Tree Community Plan. So like Commissioner Matthews said, ironically, the Joshua Tree Community Plan augments the generic parts of the development codes. It adds policies on top of, in other words, overlays rules on top of the general provisions of the code. So the zoning is a generic land use designation, the most you are allowed to get away with building in a place. And then the policies of the community plan are supposed to be overlaid on top of that, so you need to have your project comply with those policies. Or that's how it's supposed to be done. The county staff did not do that. They just ignored the existence of the community plan in their initial study. So they are the ones that essentially wrote and adopted the community plans in 2007. If they say the 2007 Joshua Tree Community Plan is worthless, then they should be sued for wasting taxpayer money and time in writing a plans and willingly allowing a worthless thing to be voted into the code. In other words, the county staff either screwed up then or they screwed up now. You can't really have it both ways. They can't just pretend that this disconnect between the community plan and the Altamira project was some innocent mistake and they are victims of the plan's language, and it means nothing when they are responsible for the plan in the first place. So they need to follow their ordinance 4011, which is in their development code, which says, and this is what Paul read at the meeting, the intent is to ensure that the county's approval of a proposed development in these specified areas is consistent with the standards as adopted for specific areas. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, that concludes our comment section of the meeting. Public safety reports, looks like county fire left. Okay, well, I guess we'll read about that. CAL FIRE, we got somebody from CAL FIRE here? They just left too. Must be a 4 alarm, okay. Eric, CHP, Eric Robles, from commander from our local CHP station. Thank you. Turn your radio off.
My phone's on silent already. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm hoping the fire guys are okay. It's kind of rare that they actually take off at the same time, so yeah, I didn't get any calls yet, neither has Jeff, so far so good. I want to remind everybody that's National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. When we think about distracted driving, we've all seen the people who are texting, the people who are on their cell phones, you know, it goes beyond that. Playing with the radio, eating, brushing teeth, putting on makeup, reading, you name it, I'm sure you've seen it. Again, it's all part of it, and we just want to recognize that though you folks may not be doing it, people around you are. And just be aware that you see those people driving from side to side. It doesn't mean they're DUI. There's probably a better chance that they're actually on their cell phone or something to that effect. So just be aware, please, and again, we're trying to enforce it as best we can, but we can't be everywhere. And I just ask that you be extra safe. Hey, you noticed my new PIO isn't here because he's on vacation. I think he had the same schedule as Joan. He's on vacation for a few weeks. We're trying to get him back on board with our Facebook page to bring that up to date. I think some of you have probably visited the Morongo Basin CHP page. We do have some information on there for traffic, especially when the weather comes in. It links to our active incidents as well as Caltrans with road closures and floods and as such. And I don't know if you've recognized it or not, but and I know Caltrans doesn't normally come to our meetings here, and I haven't worked with county roads a lot, but Caltrans, there's something special up here, and I want to give them a big compliment because I got to tell you, they are phenomenal to the services that they provide to you here. I don't know if you know that or not, but I've worked in a lot of different places, and Caltrans is great every place. But here it's been something special, and I've been quite impressed with their diligence in patrolling the roads and keeping the highways open, and we are very responsive to that. In fact, they usually beat us on scene to a lot of the events, and they call us to tell us of something instead of us calling them, and that's typically what happens. County roads, again, they have a lot of the offshoots, and they service the cities and the communities of Joshua Tree and Yucca and 29 Palms. I don't deal a lot with them, but I know the times that we've called for them, they've been phenomenal as well. So I'd like to give them a compliment, especially in the weather. And having the weather that in mind, flash flooding. Again, it's raining outside, and that's always a concern when there's 6 inches of water in the road. That's all it takes to wash a vehicle off the highway. So it's very, very important that you don't try to cross the highway and don't let others. And if you see a road closed sign or it looks a bit deep, just wait a little bit, and perhaps the water will subside, and you can get to your destination safely. Having said that, I don't have anything. Does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am. Public Information Officer, I'm sorry, yes.
And what's his name?
That's Simon Miller. He's the gentleman who spoke last time. He took Joan's spot with the same great schedule. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just on being aware of people around you. I took a driving course in PhD.
Excuse me, can you stand up and talk so everybody can hear you?
Sure. Took a driving course in PhD. One of the things they stress, if your wife's on the road, your kids are on the road, your buddy's on the road, assume they're out to get you in an accident. Never take anybody for granted. And when I was training truck drivers, I had 2 pitted squad cars pull in the left turn lane in front of us at red light and take up our stopping distance. we all make mistakes,
Sure we do, yep.
you know, so that's all I'm saying. Don't trust anybody.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, the human factor is something to deal with, and you always want to drive defensively as best you can.
Yeah. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
No, I just wanted to say that we congratulate Joan now for probably saving more fuel for the CHP in this area than anybody else, because I see her unit stopped more than I do moving. Congratulations.
I think she just likes talking to people.
I think so, right?
Yeah, if she's going to meet with you, the chances are it's going to be a good conversation.
I think she's doing a great job.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll let her know. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, Sheriff's Department, Captain Jeff Drilling.
Good evening, everybody. Hey, on the heels of what Eric was saying, it's also Child Abuse Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I believe the Behavior Health will be sponsoring a press conference in front of the courthouses Friday morning at 9 o'clock, along with a motorcycle poker run, I believe, that they're hosting. So, like the CHP, we're not as cool as the CHP, but we have a Facebook presence as well. I mean, you can follow us on there. We do some semi-cool things. We do Fugitive Friday, so you can go on there and see who we want the most. We usually, and people from the community really get involved in that and help us hunt folks down that the courts are looking for. I'll go over a couple of stats before I open it up to questions. It was a really good month for us, talking about March. As we close out, made 70 arrests in the county area. There were no murders in the county area here in the Morongo Basin, no rapes, no robberies. And as far as burglary, which has been a hot topic here, we talk about that usually every month, that went down compared to last year by 50%. So, and it went over 50% for non-residential burglary. And just general thefts, not counting those, grand theft auto went down 50%. All other thefts plummeted almost 60%. So we've been real busy arresting lots and lots of people. We're still looking for a couple of folk. Some of those we have on Fugitive Friday that are responsible for a good chunk of victimizing the folks in all the different county areas. So with that being said, you guys got any questions for me this month?
I do.
Ask away.
I've talked to you before about, sorry about that. I mentioned before Nextdoor, which is the social network for neighborhoods, and agencies can join Nextdoor. So we'd like to invite the Sheriff's Department to join Nextdoor Wonder Valley, and I'm sure some of the other communities would like that as well, because you can put reports and things like that on there for us, and then you can also have a dialogue about things if you're inclined. But it would be really helpful, and if there's somebody that I could talk to at the Sheriff's Department about that and give them the information, I'd be happy to do that.
You certainly can. I swear. The light's on.
Hey, it's even green. It's not his fault.
Bob, not yell at me. Just project.
Here's the other one.
How about now?
Turn it up. Turn it up.
You can use mine.
Hang on.
Yes, mine still works. Oh, okay.
You can get a hold of our service specialist, Robert Anderson, there at the sheriff's station. And Robert will, if you provide him the information, he can come talk to me about it, about at what level we can actually have the staffing to participate in that. Fair enough?
Okay, yeah, because
Your mic does not work.
as long as you're posting things on Facebook, you could just slip over and post the same thing on Nextdoor.
Call Robert and we'll
I'll
see
do
how
that.
much spare time we have.
I know, I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
We had a big fire in Morongo Valley a couple of weeks ago, and evidently I believe it was the sheriff's department was on scene. And I just wonder how that works, that the sheriff goes to a call for a fire alarm.
This is how it works. If we're there initially, our first goal is always safety. So if there are firemen there, we're going to rely on them to tell us what's safe and what's not. I mean, it's human life takes precedence in all things. They're going to take care of the initial fire stuff. We have no water. And, if they say that there's something suspicious, then we have an arson bomb division that works with their arson bomb division, deciding who's going to assist and conduct that part of the investigation.
But what gets you going there in the first place? Do you go to all fire alarms that come off, or do they ask for you to come?
It depends on dispatch on, hey, look, if we have a unit that looks like they may be close, if they think it's occupied, often they will send us as well.
Okay.
But other than having the lights on top of the car, we have nothing to put a fire out. Anybody else?
Good.
We good? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to double down on what Teresa said.
Could you stand up so
I
that...
volunteer with the LA County Sheriffs, and they use the Nextdoor social app for disseminating information. I'm a lead up on the Mesa, and we've got Homestead Valley, and we've got a huge area there where Robert can just put out one piece of information, cover all of Wonder Valley, a lot of Yucca and the unincorporated areas. So Teresa, when you get a hold of Anderson, get a hold of me.
Okay.
And we'll talk to him too. I've been participating with this Nextdoor thing since the LA County Sheriff's doing it for years. So it's potentially a good resource for you. On your Facebook page I'm on, and I also get the Nixon alerts, and thank you very much for those.
All right, sounds like a good thing, maybe something we ought to be involved in.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Good report.
Who would like the working mic?
Let's hope our guests have a working mic over there. Okay, based on a community request, tonight we have two guests. I've already introduced them. The first one is Julie Hernandez, and I'm hoping I get the title right, Deputy Chief San Bernardino County Land Use Service Code Enforcement. Is that correct? Okay, second one is Megan Starbeck, Animal Health Investigator, San Bernardino County Preventive Veterinary Services. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Close enough, huh?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to have, Tom, would you take your mic and take it to the audience? And we're going to have an open general discussion. I know we've got several questions. But before we do that, would you like to, each one of you, give a little background on what you do? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
You want to go first, Julie? I work for the San Bernardino County Code Enforcement Division. We're part of the Land Use Services Department. And in land use services, that would be building and safety, planning, mining, and we also have a fire hazard abatement division that's part of our code enforcement division. I'm the newly appointed deputy chief, so before this, I was in charge of our fire hazard abatement program for 8 years. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that program. We don't actually have that service out in this area. Because the fire service is CAL FIRE, so they handle the any kind of fire hazard abatement questions or issues in this area. So like I had mentioned, 8 years for fire hazard abatement as the supervisor for that program, and 7 years before that I actually did work most of those years here in... Okay. Okay, how about that? Okay. 7 years before, I was actually part of the code enforcement team and did have work in this area for quite some time. So I'm not really up to speed on the issues, but that's why I'm here today. I'm going to get a lot of information, find out what the issues are, and hopefully we're going to start working as a team here and making sure that we're addressing the issues and things that we can.
Hi, I'm Megan Starbeck. I work for County Animal Control. Preventive Veterinary Services is a sister program in the Animal Care and Control Program. My job is to inspect licensed, permitted facilities in the county that have animals, like pet shops, pet groomers, kennels, catteries, exotics, that sort of thing. I've worked for the county about 25 years, and my background is in small animal veterinary medicine, a little bit of exotics, a little bit of wildlife. Okay.
Okay, Tom will go around. I know we've got some questions on how the two work together. And first, Gary? Okay.
Well, I've had a chance to already greet our two visitors tonight, and a delightful conversation, and I really appreciate their drive up here. So thanks a lot. I guess Dan and I were talking about one of the big issues in our area is we have 2 kennels 3/10 of a mile apart. We know that the code was followed precisely, or as best as we could interpret it to be followed in order to place the more recent one. However, as Janet said a few minutes ago, codes are highly subject to interpretation. And first of all, we have asked prior to this for consideration within the decision regarding the Morongo Valley Community Plan, which Janet so ably said really piggybacks on and clarifies what the county code, land development code, is supposed to be saying. And frankly, you know, my review of it would indicate that you should look at kennels and other type of egregious activities that are not controlled and highly in dense communities within the plan as well as the code. And I don't think that was done in this case. The second part has to do with another interpretation of the code, and that's public input. We've had, I was just looking at the data a minute ago, 7 individuals wrote rather passionate pleas to you not to approve the kennel at the corner of Breezeway and Rose Eden. 7 people. They have no recourse outside of paying $1,421 to have it reheard by the county, the Planning Commission. I looked at ours, and I think 6 of us, that's the whole community, pleaded with you not to permit this well-known hoarder to have a permit. And we have no recourse either except to gather $1,400 and some odd dollars from the few neighbors we have. You know, it's a republic. Even minorities such as dog owners and hoarders have rights, but we have nothing in the process. We have no skin in it, and it's very much like this. It was an interpretation of the code to ask for public input. You're not required by one statement in that code to ask for public input. I don't know. We don't feel the love, okay? And it's like, don't make me chase my tail, because I write good letters. So does my wife, and so does my family. I won't even speak for those other poor souls on the other side of the road, 7 of them who wrote letters about the other kennel. They're out of luck. They have no recourse. However, as you know, you can go ahead and work with that kennel permittee and work with them and work with them and work with them until he or she meets the established code. So we're looking at some vagaries here. We're looking at interpretations, but we're also looking at quality of life, property values, and issues between community members that arise because, you know, you're not really thinking about contact amongst us neighbors. So, you know, for me right now, property values are the big thing, as well as quality of life.
My name's Alan Marquez, Sun Fair area. I have a question for the land use code enforcement, Julie Hernandez. The whole Morongo Basin for the longest time has been having problems with ORV violations. We've contacted the Sheriff's Department, but of course they can't come out because of the problem of distance. And we called notified code enforcement in the past, and they're restricted from really doing anything. Do you have any suggestions what the population over here can do about off-road vehicle violations?
I do know that there is a code enforcement officer that's assigned to the off-highway vehicle team that is in this community or in this area. So what I need to do is to find out what the contact information is. They're here on the weekends. I'll get the contact information for you. We'll get your name and number, and then you'll have that. So when that does occur, and it is on a weekend, they are available to go and check. They will write citations, but they have to actually see them and be there. So if you could give us an idea of when that's happening, and then we can make sure that this person is in that area during that time. But there is somebody assigned in this area for that.
Okay, my name is Jet Tucker. I live in the town of Joshua Tree, and every one of my neighbors almost has a dog or more. Is there a number of dogs that a person can own within the city limits?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Usually it's 4 dogs without a permit, but some of the lots are smaller. If they're smaller, you're only allowed 2. So we can, you can either call animal control and we can refer you to the county office to find out how large your property is, if you're allowed 2 or 4.
It's a small property and there's 7.
Then they probably would only be allowed 2. Yeah, we would have to check. If you want to give me the address, we can check.
Yeah, my name is John Stevens, Yucca Mesa, and it's for Ms. Hernandez. When I moved up here, this is on the heels of what Steve Bardwell was saying. When I moved up here, I was trying to do everything above board. I talked to 5 different people, 1 field inspector and 4 office people in building and safety. This was all involving just putting a 40-foot shipping container on my property in unincorporated areas. All 5 of them were wrong. And land use got me for $176 specifically because they were going to notify all my neighbors who in a year and a half have never heard anything. So there's $176 down the drain. And there was engineering, everybody was wrong. So it ended up with, being referred at a high rate of vocalization and profanity to Jim Squires, who is no longer here, who was the head of local building and safety. And he was wrong too, so I had to educate him as to what's required to put one of the darn things on the property. There's 18,000 shipping containers, of which at least 5,000 of them have to be permitted. And then the thing was valued at $10,000. It didn't cost me $4,000, but part of my permit fees. The only point I'm bringing up is when you talk to 5 different people and get 5 different answers and they're all wrong, and then it's hopefully you can get something straightened out with that, because it is kind of silly. And the way I finally got to the bottom of it is I threatened Mr. Squires that I was going to tell 14,000 well-off retirees to either avoid San Bernardino County or bootleg everything if they got stuck here. And it's unnecessary. I was trying to do everything correct, calling in advance, explaining exactly what I was going to do, submitting pictures and plans, and nobody knew what the hell they were talking about. So, thank you.
I would like to know if you have any answers or suggestions to the 2 people from Morongo Valley. They're from my community. And I know this has been something that is very important to them because they live right next to this kennel. And it's created a big problem in our community. And I would like to hear if you have any other things you can tell them about what they can do.
Well, code enforcement and myself, we go out to all new kennels to inspect them and whether we approve them or disapprove them. If they're up to code, and that means they're in compliance with all of the development codes that refer to kennels, and also county code of the kennel ordinances. If they're up to code, then we have to give them the permits. Now, if the neighbors have issues with barking, they can call our animal control number and put in a barking complaint. We have a process in place for those issues. If dogs are loose, digging out, call our animal control, we'll come out and verify it and cite them for off-leash. If there are other issues you're concerned about, like flies, too many dogs, we'll send an officer or myself and we'll come out unannounced and verify. And one thing I wanted to say about the kennels, there's 2 permits required for anybody that wants to get a kennel permit. And that is 1 permit through code enforcement or land use. The other permit is through animal control or our office. The first year, those permits will cost the person about $1,000. The second and following years, it'll cost them about $400 just in permits. If the animals are all spayed and neutered, they can have outdoor kennels. If they're intact animals that they're breeding, they have to have indoor-outdoor kennels. And all kennels are supposed to lock their dogs up at night in the garage or the house from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And this is to prevent barking problems. The other thing is they're inspected unannounced once a year, and any complaints. And usually joint inspection once a year with code enforcement. So everything has to be up to code. I hope does that answer your questions? Oh, I'm sorry, and they're only allowed 15 dogs, adults, 15 dogs. If they want more than that, they have to get a different kind of permit that's very expensive just to apply.
Goes to your person next to you.
Sorry. Can you clarify the scope of permissible activities for a private kennel? I mean, a commercial kennel, I assume I know what they're allowed to do, which is breed and sell dogs. What can private kennels do with their 15 dogs?
Well, basically, private kennels mean that the dogs they have are spayed or neutered, all spayed and neutered. Most people that have private kennels, their dogs are either rescues or just for enjoyment, dogs they've picked up off the desert, that sort of thing, that they've accumulated.
I see. When you issue kennel permits, do you consider density? I know you consider the size of the property, but I'm thinking about my area where there are 2 existing kennels and 2 pending permits, and they're all within about a mile of each other. Is that a factor that goes into consideration of the issuance of a permit?
The density that we take care of is through land use services, and that's that part of the permit from code enforcement that determines the applicant has enough property, which is a minimum of 2.5 acres, and that it's zoned properly.
Okay, so density doesn't come into it.
I don't think we have a density of an area of how many per area in the county.
I didn't see anything when I read the code.
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Well, I'll just follow up on that then. So we're in the vicinity of these 2 kennels, existing kennels, which have a history of being noisy, kind of problematic, and now 2 new kennels. So I would suggest that might be something to take into consideration, because we feel like we're like living in kennel land, you know? And then, you know, I wondered also about horse. Their horse, what do I want to say?
Stables.
Stables, that's a word. There's stables in the area. So there's, there are getting to be a lot, which is great in a way, but horses don't bark, so that's not. But just, the density of animals being kept within residential areas kind of cumulatively have their impact, so.
And like I said, animal control does have a process in place for noise animal issues. So if you have a barking complaint against them, please call our 1-800 number, 1-800-472-5609. And I have a couple of the letters that you'll get if you want to pick one of those up and see the process. Now, I know the kennels you're talking about in that area. It seems like there's a lot coming in. There would only be 4 in that area. And one is an original owner who moved a little ways away with 43 acres, which is way over 2.5 acres. And she's still only having 15 dogs. And both of those kennels have indoor-outdoor kennels where they're supposed to lock them up at night. The new one coming into that area is, she bought the existing kennel that the woman sold. And she's going to be breeding dogs that are quiet. They're French bulldogs.
I'm curious. I don't have a dog, and there's not that many dogs around me, however, so I look out on that. But at some point, I would imagine that public health might be something that should be involved in there as well.
Animal control is under public health, so I'm public health. And we do have ordinances that address public health.
This isn't about dogs, but this is about land use, and we have an illegal landfill in Wonder Valley, and I know County Code Enforcement is working with it right now, but they have been burying garbage for many years and on that property, and the neighbors are concerned that their well water might be contaminated. So they asked me to check to see how we could get that tested, and I found like a few different places that do that in the county, but who should I go to?
Well, I'm not too sure about that, but I will take that information, and
okay.
I also want some information on that next.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
So if you could give me your card for that,
sure.
I will find out, and I will call you and point you in the right direction.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Well, we all know that there's some leeway with kennel permittees. For instance, there's one that has no permit that has an excess of 15 dogs most of the time, and you bring her down to 15, but she still doesn't have a permit to have more than that, more than 5. So I'd like you to look into that, because these things always, have a way of working around what the law says. And I'm so happy that you mentioned a thing about feces disposal. We as humans can't leave feces in plastic bags to be taken out by Burtec and deposited at the dump out here. So what's happening with the feces from the place that has 15 dogs and the other place that has 15 pets? What is going on with that? That might not be addressed in code adequately. And that's the final question that I wanted to or offer that I made the first time I was here. I'd be pleased to work with you on rewriting code to make it more agreeable to the larger community. That includes the stakeholders that do have kennels as well. So I'll leave that offer on the table.
Let's see, dog feces, you're allowed to put it in plastic bags and put it in your dumpsters, fly-proof bags, and put it in your dumpsters and go to a landfill. Now, if the kennel you're talking about, I think you're talking about, they have applied for a permit, and standard operating procedure is if a person gets a call from, if animal control gets a call about a person with a lot of dogs and they want a welfare check on the dogs. If the officer arrives at the property and the dogs are not vaccinated or licensed, they are automatically given a citation. $100 fine for no vaccination, $100 fine for no license. Then, if the dog is not spayed or neutered and not papered, they get another $100 fine to spay and neuter the pet. Now, the license and the vaccine will get no exemption or no extension. But if they need a little bit of time to spay and neuter the dog, they're given a little extra time. But they are to get the dog licensed temporarily for 6 months instead of a year, which it would half the fee. To license a dog that's intact, it's almost $100. So we'll give them a temporary 6-month license, and then when they get the animal neutered, we'll give them a yearly license. So there's no way of them getting out of those fines. So right away they're fined. Then if they're over the limit of 4 dogs, then we refer that case to code enforcement, and a code enforcement officer handles it from there on the numbers or density issues.
Thank you. I've got one question, and it dawned on me in trying to set up this question and answer period. Usually when there's a barking dog and the residents don't know where to go, they call the sheriff. And the sheriff comes out and basically knocks on the door and asks them to keep their dogs quiet. It's a disturbance of the peace. And my question to the sheriff's department was, what do you do with that report? Is there a report made? He says, well, it can be made. Sometimes just a verbal warning will suffice. But if they have to come out a second time, then sometimes a report is made. And my question is, where does that report go? How does animal control? It seems like there might be a disconnect between a sheriff's report and animal control on a problem in a neighborhood. And do you work with the sheriff at all on issues like that?
We do work with the sheriff, but I'm not sure about, if we get a report from the sheriff, we'll handle it, but I don't think we get reports weekly or monthly from them as a standard operating procedure. But the barking animal complaint, a citizen can call, and then an officer delivers the barking animal letter to the person that has the barking dogs, supposedly. And the person reporting the barking also gets a letter to tell them their responsibility in reporting the barking. The person that supposedly has the barking dogs gets 2 weeks to correct the problem. If there's still a problem, then the citizen calls again, and an officer goes out and writes a notice of violation. And then 2 weeks later, if the problem continues, then the officer will go out and cite them. And then you both go to court because you have to prove it. And then leave it up to the judge.
Okay. One more question. I know the county several months ago, maybe 6 months ago, came out with a simple app called SB Code. Are you familiar with that? It doesn't specifically, one of the categories doesn't specifically mention code enforcement for animal control, but it does say other. Will those complaints, if they, and it requires a picture, for instance, if a citizen would take a picture of a dog out of a kennel roaming and take a picture, would the SB Code app work in that case?
I don't see why it couldn't work for that. I mean, if it says other, and we're going to know what it is when we see that, and somebody looks at that daily, so we would, I mean, we work closely with Megan and animal control, so that could be something that we refer to them. And that's, you know, anybody that has a smartphone can get the app, and like you said, take a picture. And there's a spot to make a note or notation of what you're taking a picture of and send it over to us. And so that might be another quick way, and we get pictures at the same time, so.
Great. Sure.
I sent something to via the app, and I didn't get any response. So I mean, I thought this is a great way to like register it right away, but it would be really good for you to say, got it, and here's your follow-up number.
That's true. I know we get them daily. Okay, I'll let them know that. I'm not sure, you know, about, but that would make sense to give a response.
Yeah, because otherwise you feel like,
Right, that we didn't get it. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention that in my report tonight, the SB Code. It is a free code. You can put it on any smartphone. I know that in the first 2 months of adding that, it was very successful. They were reacting to code enforcement issues, mainly trash and such, within days. Now it has been so popular, it takes 3 or 4 months to get to you, but they will. In the first 3 months, I think, of SB Code in this upper basin, based on that, they picked up over 50 tons of trash just based on that one code. So I'll give it some time, and I think that it's becoming streamlined, and I think it's a good idea to use it on code enforcement for animal control also, because it goes to the department that is going to enforce the code. Okay. Thank you.
I'm talking.
But they need it.
It's
The
loud.
record needs it. They need it on the microphone.
Oh, I see, okay. So, I'm living across the street from this guy that's got 6 or 8 dogs. 6 or 8 dogs. And I don't think they're registered, and I don't think they're, whatever it has to be, I think they're all there, just not registered. So where does this registration take place? How do you know how these dogs are registered? You send somebody out, you got pictures of these dogs, or they have tags on them, or what goes on? How do you know that they got their shots? How do you know they're not rabid? How do you know all of that information? Where is all that information?
Okay, when we send an officer out, they checked for the paperwork that shows they're vaccinated, and we can check our county animal control computer to see if they're licensed. If they're licensed, they should have the tag around their neck. And then what was your other question? I'm sorry. I think that was it. Yeah, it's stored in the, yes, county animal control. We don't have pictures of dogs unless they do bad things.
Yeah, I mean, with all of the information that is needed to have that dog there.
Yes.
You know, whether they're diseased or whether they're correctly.
If they appear healthy and normal, then there's no further investigation.
Yes, I have a question. It's slightly different, and I'm wondering about the responsibility of the county for wild animals, like wild dogs, wild dog packs that sometimes come around our area. I assume coyotes are a cost of living here. You really aren't responsible for them, but perhaps occasionally there may be a wild animal which is within a house or a house residential area or something. Does the county respond quickly for those complaints?
Yes, county animal control will come out for animals that are trapped, wild animals, or wild animals that are sick. We have a contract with a man that traps coyotes, a company. And then if you have a pack of wild dogs, we'll probably put you in touch with a supervisor for the area, set up traps, and monitor that situation, take care of it.
Okay, thank you.
You say that 15 dogs is the limit for a private kennel. If someone with a private kennel license has 15 dogs and one of the dogs has a litter, do they get a sort of temporary free pass until they sell the pups, or?
The private kennel indicates they're all spayed and neutered.
No babies.
No babies.
Oh.
No puppies.
Okay. So you mentioned somebody who is going to be breeding French bulldogs, so
Yes.
that would be commercial kennel?
Commercial, yes.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And then I do want to say the woman that has the 43 acres, most of her dogs are debarked and have been since 2010. And she was from the other kennel on Cielito or something like that. So we haven't had any barking complaints against her since 2010. Okay. Just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got one more question back there?
Yeah, I had two quick questions. One was, I was told that if you rented a cargo container, you did not have to pay for a permit, but if you go and purchase the cargo container in the rural areas, then you do have to buy a permit? That was my first question.
Oh.
Do you know the answer?
Okay.
Because when I called the county, they gave me every answer in the book for that. But then the last person said, no, I am right. What I'm telling you is right, that that's the truth, so.
Okay, whether you're renting it or you're
owning
you
it.
own it, that's not the issue. It's the placement on the property, and is it going to be there permanently? And are you know, if you're using it as a storage, then you will have to check with building and safety as far as permitting. But as far as whether you're renting it or you own it, that's not the issue. It's setting on your property as a storage unit.
Yeah, because a lot of times when people are calling the county for the information, they're telling them, did you rent it or did you purchase it? They're saying there's a difference, so I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
And the other thing is that, you know, I don't understand nowadays why people will not even try to talk to their neighbors. If there's a barking dog, like in other states, people talk to each other. And I know we're in California, so a lot of people are against each other, and you know, they're afraid of each other and they don't know their neighbors, or if they're going to come after them or do something bad if they talk to them. But, you know, talking to somebody can sometimes go a long way where you can figure out a reasonable solution for the barking. So, I mean, to me, that's the simplest solution rather than turning people in all the time, so. But that's just an idea of mine, so.
Well, it's personal choice, and they may feel they may be a target for vindictive behavior.
I'd like to follow up on the shipping container question. You mentioned the distinction between a permanent and not permanent. What distinguishes between those?
A container that you're filling with inside household items and you're filling it to move it to another place to store it, that would be temporary. If you're placing it there and you're going to use that as a storage unit and you're going to keep it there as a storage unit, then that would be permanently.
So in how long then, is there a time constraint with a temporary container? Within, you know, does it have to be moved within a certain amount of time in order to be considered temporary versus permanent? What is that, how is that?
You know, I don't have the county code in front of me. Whether or not it's addressed exactly the amount of time, but you know, once you've finished filling it, and we see that it's done, usually we get a complaint that they've moved a container here, and it looks like it's going to stay here. Is it filled? If it's not, then okay, you're still moving your stuff in. Let's give you some more time. Finish that up. We got to get this, you know, you have to get this moved. It's temporary. If it's filled and it's just sitting there, then what's the plan and how long is that going to take? And we're going to, you know, set some timelines. And if it's still sitting there, then we have to move forward with, you know, are we going to write a citation or, you know, so that's how that would play out.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question. I bought a piece of property that has a couple containers already on it that it was on the property when I bought it. How could I check on them? I just assumed where the guy was a contractor that they were legally put there, but I don't know.
You would contact our Building and Safety Division, and I have my card here. You can also call me in the morning, and you can give me the address, and I can check on that for you. They would have the records.
Okay, I think no more questions? Yeah, I'd like to give our two guests a hand for coming all the way out here. Oh, I'm sorry, we got one more.
With the storage containers, what if you are planning on turning it into a living quarters or something like that?
That would be something that you'd have to contact Building and Safety and Planning, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, with that, we'll move on. Thank you very much for coming. Oh, we got one more?
Last
okay.
one. I have a question about DBA for noise level, daytime and nighttime. It used to be 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 60 dBA next to residence and lodging business. Do you know what is now decibel?
Confirm with the code. We'd have to confirm with the code, but I thought it was somewhere around 55 dBA.
It was 65 daytime and nighttime 55. In commercial and residence was 45 nighttime.
Yeah, it's 55 at all times, 55.
55.
At the property line.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Going once, going twice. Okay, again, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out. Okay, I see, oh, CAL FIRE and County Fire is back. Who'd like to go first, Cal? County Fire? Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for coming back. You didn't have to, but thanks.
Hi, thanks for having us out this evening. My name is Tony Jones, Battalion Chief for the desert area here. I just want to touch real briefly on a few things. We are still writing burn permits for the residents that stay in the SRA. It's no more than a phone call. We can actually come to you, do an inspection, and write a permit for the remainder of the year. If you have a pencil and paper, I could give you the number where you could call and request that inspection. The number is 760-365-4411. As of last Monday, we switched over to our transitional staffing. We've got all of our stations open. We're starting to ramp back up for fire season. The weather had dried out. We're now getting rain. With this El Nino, we still have not gotten the amount of rainfall we needed to bring us out of the drought. Northern California, Central California, they've gotten more rain. All it takes is for us a few weeks of dryness, and we could be back off to the races. So right now we're saying you could burn, but I imagine June or so-ish, June, July, we will be suspending burning just to make sure everybody's safe. With the El Nino, everything is we can't predict it. You know, today it's raining real hard. We got flash flood conditions. After you guys are driving and you do see a storm come through, stay out of the low-lying areas. Those who live up in the Rimrock area, if we have anybody here where we had the fires last year, watch out for flash floods up in that area, also in the burn area. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Are your guidelines on a burn permit the same thing as the county? You know, it can't be more than 6 feet in diameter. You have to have a charged hose. It has to be 50 feet from power lines or structures. Are those the same guidelines in your area as well as it is in the county areas?
Yes, they pretty much mirror, their restrictions mirror what we do. So, yes. You guys can make it easy for me, huh?
Well, wait a second. So you're CAL FIRE.
Yes, ma'am.
So we were told today at our community meeting that County Fire was not giving out any more burn permits, but you will?
Well, there's a difference. The SRA, the state responsibility area, that's everybody who received the fee that you get. We're still writing burn permits. The San Bernardino County Fire, I cannot speak on their behalf. I don't know what they're doing as far as burn permits, but any burn permits in the SRA needs to go through CAL FIRE.
So is Wonder Valley in an SRA?
No.
Okay, thanks. Joshua Tree?
Joshua Tree, I believe it is. Some parts.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Now, are you guys paid by the fees that are charged to the properties? Is that the section that pays your salary and the county's different? I mean, Old Woman Springs Road's divided down the middle for some people have to pay that extra tax, that extra fee. Is that you guys?
The extra fee is what the state, the governor imposed that fee. We were just put on as far as the face of it. We just have to enforce what the governor has done, but it's the governor that did that.
Right, so that the people on that side that are paying the fee call you guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Isn't it the unincorporated areas that are paying that fee, and the people who live in a city like 29 Palms, Yucca Valley do not pay that fee?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's if you're in an unincorporated area. Oh, well, I know Morongo Valley pays it because we're not a city.
Yeah, we have what we call LRA, that's the local responsibility area, and that would be county fire, and then we have the state responsibility area. Everything is split up in jurisdictions, and like 247, everything I want to say on the south side would be in the SRA, everything on the opposite side would be LRA. It's real. It's a little confusing.
And there's maps.
Yeah, we do have maps. If you're really interested.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. We've got, anybody come back from county fire? No, we didn't. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to, I want to mention one thing. Before we get the reports by the MAC, I don't want to lose any people here. We have the solar, Planning Commission is hearing the Joshua Tree Airport solar issue on the 21st, on a Thursday. And it's scheduled for 9 a.m. down at county. We are about 95% sure that it is going to be video conferenced at the county building. However, we've tried this with the last two meetings of the Altamira. We're getting better at it. We had some technical issues the first time. We had the great, thank you ladies, I appreciate it. Yeah, we appreciate it. I know you got a long drive. Thank you. In the rain, and it's still raining out there. Anyway, so we're still going to video conference it, but we expect a huge crowd coming to the 21st meeting at the video conferencing. So we are going to charter a bus if we get enough interest in it. And this will not only take the load off the community center, but I know a lot of you have wanted to go down and actually see the process, and it might make more of an impact being there in person and making comments. So there is a sign-up sheet over here for the bus. It'll leave the county parking lot by our building with the sheriff and my office. It'll leave at 6:15 on the 21st. So please sign up, tell your friends. If we don't have enough by, say, 3 or 4 days before the actual event, then we'll go ahead and cancel it. But it's an opportunity. The bus is free. And we'll go down there. You'll be able to see how the government works in person. And then it'll come straight back to here. And I'm sure you can talk the driver into stopping for lunch someplace. So please tell your friends and sign up, and tell them to sign up if they'd so like. Okay, other than that, we'll go ahead with community discussions, community reports. We'll start with you, Teresa.
Okay, I'm Teresa Seitz from Wonder Valley, and we had our regular monthly meeting this morning with 24 people attending. Christine Scott from Southern California Gas spoke to us about the unannounced methane release in Wonder Valley on February 26th. Brad Dunning, a resident of Wonder Valley, also attended with a proposal to restore the neon on the sign in front of our community center. We also voted to approve a proposal from Food for Life to use our kitchen and provide free meals to our community on Saturday afternoons. We're scheduling an additional cleanup in the near future. The Marines have volunteered to help us with this effort, and we thank San Bernardino County Code Enforcement and BURTEC for making this possible. 2 houses did burn down in Wonder Valley Sunday night, March 6th, and we later discovered that none of our 3 community water tanks, which were dedicated for fire use, were full or could even be used, and that we couldn't use our water tender, and that the firemen at our firehouse admitted they weren't qualified to drive the fire engine, but only the brush truck with 100 gallons of water. So we're working closely with County Fire to improve this situation, and we were promised that professional firefighters would staff our fire station beginning this month, and that they'd be qualified to drive the fire engine. But they couldn't verify. They attended our meeting today, and they couldn't verify that this has happened. I have to add that these fires were devastating to our community. On April 26th, Gail Swarat and Donna Munoz spoke with our community about CSDs, or community service districts, and about their negotiations with County Fire and the decisions their community is making, which are similar in many ways to our own. And we had 32 people that attended that meeting, and thanks, Gail, for coming. We'll be having our second fire extinguisher training this Saturday on April 16th. Everyone's invited to come if you'd like. Please contact me if you want to attend. It's free. We'll have Mr. Fire Protection of Yucca Valley on hand to refill and recertify and sell fire extinguishers, and that is at a cost, but it's reasonable. And if you want to know what else we're doing in Wonder Valley, just check out wondervalley.org. Thank you.
Would you like me to go next? Sure. Okay. Richard Lutringer, reporting from Landers. We had a new election, or election of new officers and directors this weekend, and they're assuming their obligations and should be in. We'll have our regular monthly meeting on the first Saturday of the month next month. I'd mention again that the May 27th, 28th rodeo is getting to be a reality, and we have a beautiful spot for it out there, so please put that in your calendar, May 27th or 28th. Come to the rodeo.
How much are the tickets?
The tickets are $10.
Cool. Tom Seeger from Yucca Mesa. I have nothing to report this time.
Liv Koenig, Flamingo Heights. We're still having problems with the roads, and that seems to be ongoing. Just for the community, there is a new property tax proponent program. Their applications will be out in July, and I've ordered some, and they will be due starting October. There's also a new community center for adults 60 and over, and it's by phone and computer, so you don't even have to leave your house. We also have a new Ramos report, so if you need those, we have them also. Thank you.
Okay, Bob's looking at me like he wants me to announce this. He finally found an easy link to get to the MAC meetings on YouTube. It's called Morongo Council Meetings. Very simple. It was under MAC at one time, and they switched it around, and he found this easy link. So Morongo Council Meetings, and you can watch all different YouTubes, and I guess there's all different areas. He was telling me the one in near the border. Where was it, Bob? Calexico. It's very interesting. Watch it. If you think we get rowdy here. Okay, as far as Joshua Tree goes, spring 2016, Mojave Desert Land Trust is a desert gathering, which their event will take place Saturday, April 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Keynote speaker Juan Martinez of the Children's and Nature's Network, with Joshua Tree National Park Superintendent David Smith and other environmental leaders from our areas will be there talking. So that's a great event. As usual, Joshua Tree second Saturday downtown nights. In May, you can catch that, art, food, and music, and shopping. Also, you might want to plan ahead for the Joshua Tree Music Festival on the 11th, their 11th annual fall on October 6th and 9th. I don't think they take reservations, but it's first come, first serve is what I understand. So get your trailer geared up, and you'll want to go to that. And I've already mentioned the April 21st Planning Commission, which will be video conference at the Conference Center in Joshua Tree. And also, we have a bus going if we get enough interest. And that's it for Joshua Tree. Thank you. Gail.
Gail Swart, Morongo Valley. Tomorrow, we are having a very important meeting at our community center. LAFCO is going to be there. Kathleen Rawlings McDonald will be there to talk about the fire tax that we're proposing for Morongo Valley, and what LAFCO is going to do if the tax doesn't pass. They've been doing reports on the community for the last 6 months, and we don't have enough money to keep running fire and paramedic service. It's just, the last tax that was passed was in 2002, and as we've been telling our community, the money that we proposed in 2002 just doesn't cut it in 2016. So we have a tax that will be on the ballot in June, and there's been a lot of kind of crazy stuff on Facebook about the tax, but if you want to get the real information of what is going on, come to this meeting, or if you know anybody that lives in Morongo Valley, encourage them to come to this meeting in the community center at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. This is our most pressing issue, and we hope that we can keep our local fire and paramedic service. Thank you.
Can I ask what the tax is? How much it is?
The tax is $350 per parcel, unimproved and improved. People right now are paying on the assessment that went forward in 2002 about $150 to $170 for improved parcels, but almost nothing for unimproved parcels, like maybe $10 a year. So when the committee of board members, 2 board members, and community people who volunteered to come and work on figuring out what we needed, we felt that to help the people who live there who might be on a fixed income, it was better to be able to charge them less and charge people who have unimproved property an equal amount so that their property value would stay up. And I mean, I'm one of those people, I have an extra parcel, so I'm going to be paying $700. We know other people that have 2 or 3 parcels. But a lot of people are willing to pay it because they realize that if we don't have local fire department in our community, we might not be able to get fire insurance. And then our property isn't going to be worth anything. And plus, will people want to live in a community that doesn't have fire and paramedic service? Will they want to move there? So we felt that this was the fairest thing that we could do for everyone in the community. Yes?
Can you get the mic? This is so on the YouTube, you can hear people talk.
Yeah.
And you keep it short, okay? Gail, isn't the county fire proposal for the same coverage something like $893 or something like that per parcel?
Okay, here, we were asked not to break it down from the county. So here's how we're saying it. Our tax is asking for $913,850 to provide 24/7 fire and paramedic advanced life support to Morongo Valley. The county would charge us $1.6 million to have a brush engine with a paramedic on it. If we wanted the exact same kind of service that we are going to provide for $913,000, they would want $2.2 million. So it's obvious that we are providing the best service for the lowest cost. And the whole thing about having a fire station within 5 miles of your home, if you don't, your ISO rating goes up and you might not be able to get insurance. A lot of us have called our insurance companies and they say either our insurance could go up by a minimum of 30% or we might be canceled if we don't have a fire department in Morongo. So we're just trying to give everybody the facts, and I know there's been a lot of what I consider misinformation on Facebook of people that, and that's the one thing that bothers me a little bit about Facebook is anybody can say anything and they don't have to have any facts to back it up. But the Citizens Committee that's working to pass the tax has everything is documented. We have the documents on everything of why we need to do this. So we're just hoping that 2/3 of our registered voters will vote yes. And if not, we'll see what LAFCO does. They can come in and put a 0 sphere over Morongo Valley, and that's it. We're out of not only the fire business, but they'll take our park too. So.
I have nothing for Pioneer Town.
And I have nothing for Wonder Valley, but I do have a question. I brought some desert reports, which they come out quarterly and they're quite excellent. They give you information in general about the desert. It's the Sierra Club Desert Committee for California and Nevada, and it is actually non-confrontational. It's information. And I have one more which is already taken. And if I can ask to get something like 50, and every quarter I can have them here for people to take, or you can subscribe. It's like send them $5 or whatever, or you can look them up on the web and just Google Desert Report. But it's really got great information in it in a very digestible, well-written, well-edited way. The lead story this time is Death Valley's wettest October on record, and if you just want that story, that's something else. I think, what was it? 6 inches of rain in 5 hours, something, without the decimal points there. Talks about the Salton Sea and what's happening there and that kind of thing. So, would you like me to get more copies and have them available? Yes. Okay, I can do that. I will.
With that, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming.